Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. My two waving minions back at it once again. And we're here for the French Grand Prix preview podcast that you guys have been enjoying so much on a Friday. And we just keep flying out the content. And of course, alongside me, my two minions, Tom Bellingham and Katie Fairman. Tom Bellingham, in fact, it looks like he's wearing an orange jumper, but it's not. It's yellow. Sorry, WTF1 founder. I forgot.
I'm literally a minion.
No.
I'm literally a minion. I'm in yellow. I should be doing like a boomer meme, like Mondays, am I right?
It's not yellow. To be fair, it's probably about as accurate as the F1 cameras when they're trying to show like a yellow flag and it looks green and things like that, where the colours are just completely wrong. That's the same with your jumper. And just so you heard, Tommy, you are the WTF1 founder as well. Just wanted to make sure that you heard that, because I know that I did say it, but I don't want you to hurt me.
That's fine. The camera never lies except when it does. Let's see.
And Katie Fairman, the WTF1 editor, and apparently wearing a colour that I don't really understand. Is that white? Is it beige? What is it?
Cream.
Like a cream and a brown.
My eyes are so bad for colours.
You need to
anyway,
go to Specsavers.
Speaking of colours, let's segue into the French Grand Prix with the horrendous stripes of the Paul Ricard circuit. And have your eyes both recovered from the first two practice sessions? A lot of stripes. 167 track layouts, is it?
167. Yeah, I forgot how. Yeah, when they first came out the pit lane for FP1, and you have the panning shots all around the circuit, I was like, oh my word, I forgot about these stripes. It's a strange watch, to say the least. It takes a bit getting used to, I feel.
I feel like I'm kind of giving off a PTSD with this jumper, actually. I should have gone for something a bit more plain. I'm so sorry.
You've gone for the Kerbs, haven't you?
I've gone for a stripy jumper.
To be fair, I wish the Kerbs were a bit more muted, like your lovely jumper.
Thank you, Tommy.
Not mine.
Yeah, fluorescent yellow jumper.
Anyway, let's talk about, well, actually, I thought the first thing we'd be talking about is track limits. I'm sure we will get onto it, but the main talking point was the sausage curbs. Specifically at turn 2, they are dotted around the track, aren't they? It's not the only place they have those big, fat, wedgy, girthy curbs. But turn 2 is the one where it's a big problem, right? Because obviously you've got a really difficult couple of corners to start off the lap. You go down and then you go up and you go back down again and the car goes light and you can easily make a mistake through there, which we've seen both Mercedes and Red Bull, maybe a few other teams as well, but we don't think we heard the FIA team radios for them. But those top two teams were complaining about damaging their car to hundreds of £1,000s worth of damage, which obviously they would complain anyway, but because there's the cost cap as well, every bit of money that comes out the kitty to repair a car can't go into developing their next year's car. So, yeah, I would just get rid of them. It's really not that, the argument was, I won't go on to too much of a soliloquy. Well, that's a good word. Is the fact that, some people are arguing, just don't go there. If there was a wall, you wouldn't go there. But the difference is a curb is not exactly a wall. You can't really see the curbs as well as you can a wall. A wall is a big reference. A sausage curb on the side of a track isn't. And the F1 drivers want to take as much liberties as they possibly can on the curb without going onto the death trap. So for me, just get rid of them.
Yes, we saw it in Imola. Obviously, Lando had that lap deleted. Track limits, I feel like, is just defined this season where they want it, they don't want it, then it's too much, then it's too little. You have this argument of, oh, well, if it was, like you say, if it was Monaco, you'd be in the barrier and damaging your car, but it's not Monaco. It is a really difficult one, but yeah, the teams were not happy about it. And I think you're right, it's not as easy. It's easy to watch from home and go, oh, just don't go there. But if you've ever played a game, or even when you're watching those POV views where you realize how low they actually sit and how little you
literally
do see.
Just sit on the floor and try and see things. That's basically a good reference.
Sit really low in your road car where you can, so you're like peering over the top, of it. Don't do
not
that because
driving.
Sorry, not while driving.
When stationary.
When stationary, to have a view, but do not drive. Because yes, if there were sausage curbs, you'd be running over them, or people, or anything like that. So do not do that. Do not sue me.
Don't listen to anything that Tommy said for the last 30 seconds. Katie.
I am in a bit of a weird position with this because the drivers and the teams are obviously not a fan of these curbings, but that is because they will complain about everything they can so that they get their way, basically. We've seen it throughout Formula One history. However, speaking to ex-drivers like Kareem Chandok and Paul di Resta on Sky, they also have the opinion that they shouldn't be there. Maybe they could, with the curbing, take away every other curb so it's not quite as dramatic and damaging to the cars, because we've seen things ping off, and like you said, £100,000 of worth of damage in a practice session is not ideal for just going over a curb. But then Michael Massey, or Michael Sassy, as he is now being known by people on Twitter, which I think is excellent. It really is. He has basically said, well, it's the same as it was in 2019. You know, you didn't moan about it then, just deal with it. And I kind of agree with it. Obviously, it's easy for us to say we're not F1 drivers. We're just literally armchair experts, as they say. But you know, those curbs have been put there for a reason, to help with track limits and things like that. And the F1 drivers should respect that. And, you know, if every time there was something that was an inconvenience and the FIA snapped their fingers and it disappeared, then you're on dangerous grounds, probably quite literally, because sometimes things might be put in for safety and stuff like that. So I think they should stay there. But Massey said that he's going to have a look at it, because all the teams have been in his ear on the team radio graphic that we've seen, which I absolutely love. And he said, you know what, I'll have a look at it this evening and we'll deal with it. So it could be come tomorrow morning, they magically disappeared, but I don't know.
It's funny that he, referenced clearly they've had problems. I'm assuming Portimao. I don't think it's coincidence that this came up in the Red Bull team graphic that we saw when he was speaking to the Red Bull team, and he said kind of like, oh, you wanted clear track limits, so I put some curbs there, and now you're complaining again. So what do you want? Kind of thing. He was definitely Michael Sassy, wasn't he?
I'm not a big fan of the way he's well, from what we've heard anyway, sort of dealing with the teams. You know, it should be a very fluid conversation. It shouldn't be trying to one up each other, which I felt like that's what he's trying to do. From the snippets we've heard, of course, we're not there the whole time, but from what I've heard, it isn't necessary. And I don't obviously have to be quite firm, but from my understanding, Charlie Whiting didn't go about his job in that way. And look how a brilliant a job he did. From obviously track limits wasn't really as much of a talking point when he was kind of in charge, but it's just, I think it's quite clear to see that he's under pressure. He's trying to take this kind of sort of alpha male dominant approach sort of vibe, and saying, well, look, you wanted this, I gave you it, and now you're complaining. Which I don't know if that's going to be the best way to do it, because of course he's managing also pretty big egos across all the teams and the big bosses. So I feel like it would just end up in a lot of behind the scenes arguments rather than really just getting it done, because there isn't much point to those turn two. Because sorry, I've about 7 points that I want to say.
Go off.
I think it's I can't remember exactly what turn it is, but it's the one where Max and Lewis both ran wide. There's no sausage curb there, but they ran wide, and you can see the replay of the floor pretty much bouncing against the curb. I can't remember in somewhere in the middle sector, maybe into the last. Either way, it's the long right-hander, and then they run a little bit wide because it's really difficult to get your turn in right. But that's a perfect curb for me, and because it unsettles the car, but it doesn't blow up the car or cost a huge amount of damage. Because I think the race would be ruined a little bit if one of the top drivers just runs a little bit wide, gets absolutely yeeted by those sausage curbs, and I feel like it won't. Obviously, it might spice up the race if Hamilton's 20 seconds down the road, then does that. But overall, I just don't think it's necessary for it to be there. Just have track limits and just monitor it. That's it.
Yeah,
you don't need those lethal curbs.
If you are in, like you say, if Hamilton's 22nd up the road, I'm sure everyone would love it if, like you say, he yeets it over the curb. But if you're getting this amazing battle between Verstappen and Hamilton, well, maybe unlikely at Paul Ricard, but you never know. And it's ruined by running over a sausage curb and breaking your car. It's not, like you say, for what Red Bull were arguing and Mercedes. It's funny that this time it was both them. Yeah, they were very much like, well, it's such a small error. It's not like you're trying to shortcut the circuit or get a huge advantage. You're going into these corners at hundreds of miles an hour and you've just not quite got it right. and you're trying to find the limits in a practice session, and you're like, say, you're obliterating your car. But the whole thing you're saying about Massey and the way he's handling it, it's one of those things where the team radiographic is great for us. I'm a little bit concerned. One, it's not painting him in a very good light, and two, people would say, oh, it doesn't look good for him. But knowing the kind of character we've seen from him so far, with the things he said in press conferences and all that kind of thing, it does feel like maybe this would just make him be even more kind of, like, say, alpha male, and because he's like, he can be a star, and he's like, saying all this stuff because he knows it's going to be broadcast on TV, and he wants to look like top dog on TV, like saying like, I'm in charge, which could get, it's obviously, we love the whole, getting the popcorn out and seeing that graphic, but I worry that it might go too far. It could end up going maybe a little bit too far, like when they started filming the driver briefings and stuff, where it's like, is this getting a little silly now, where we shouldn't really be hearing these conversations, and it should be more about safety rather than our entertainment kind of thing.
I'm not sure many people will agree about the driver.
No, I don't want to get rid of it because I love it, but I'm just thinking in 6-7 races time, if it gets starting to get very sour and between them, it's not a great look for F1 when safety is the thing that should be being prioritized, really.
I think we should be a little bit concerned that the race director is being painted in such a negative light. Obviously, there are plenty of catalysts that have led to us having these opinions of Massey. Like, obviously on the podcast, we've spoken about things before that maybe Massey has allowed to happen, such as recovery vehicles on track and the green light happening, which I think happened in Turkey last year when it was raining. And obviously things like marshals on the tracks in Imola last year. Like, there have been plenty of examples, and we've talked about them all on the podcast. But yeah, I think with this radiographic, Massey's snappy answers makes him sound like a stroppy teenager that needs to have the last word. And I know that because I've been that stroppy teenager that needs the last word. And I'm sure everybody listening has as well, so they can relate to that. But yeah, I think it's quite concerning that, you go on Twitter and after these graphics come up, everybody's slating Massey. And like you say, even with drivers, we hear radio broadcasts and it's only a small clip of what they actually say. And sometimes we can be quite quick to judge literally just a tiny window of what we see. But yeah, I mean, like you say, I still love hearing the insights, and I'm sure Netflix and Drive to Survive are having an absolute field day. Who knows? Maybe we'll see more of Michael Massey in Drive to Survive next season.
He'll be the new supervillain that Lawrence Stroll took over. But I guess with the snippets from the drivers, at least they have the excuse of driving at 200 miles an hour.
True. He is in an air-conditioned office.
Yeah, he's not exactly under full physical stress. Maybe
not I could do his job or anything.
I love how you just throwing the aircon bit in as well.
He gets aircon and
nice cup of tea next to him.
Anyway,
I have a little fan next to me on my desk.
Wow,
that I brought out.
Do you call that aircon as well?
Best fans.
Oh,
God, sorry.
For God's sake. Leave that in 2018 or whatever. Anyway, next up, J Royal 15. Actually, no, we didn't even ask the first one. Will Taylor 2002, those curbs that damaged Valtteri's front wing. Merck say it's going to cost them tons. However, I think they work as that surely encourages drivers to stay within the track limits. What are your thoughts on this? Of course, we've just said our thoughts. I disagree with you, Will. I think Tommy also disagrees with you. Katie agrees with you. So I think that's pretty much...
What do you think? I guess one thing that might be worth covering, do you think they'll be removed? Because we've seen a lot of this thing where track limits are enforced and then the next day they're not. So do you think the curbs are going to stay or not? I personally think they'll remove them.
I think that the logical decision is to get rid of them. It just depends how much Michael Massey wants to tug at this rope and just, see exactly how far he can take it with the teams. I think, it'd only be for show if he keeps it in, because, it's all well and good. You're allowed to, set it all out. They go out for free practice and make changes. That does not show weakness. That shows that you're working with the teams and, you're coming to a decision. So for me, yeah, they should go and will go.
I've got a feeling that they're going to stay. I'm probably going to be completely wrong, but I just think that he's going to be too dominant on the issue and say, like, we heard him on the radio saying they were there in 2019 and you didn't have a problem, so pipe down kind of thing. So
Ooh.
I have a feeling they're going to stay.
That was an interesting point, actually, when he said they were there in 2019. I don't know if they were the exact ones. I certainly don't remember it coming up a lot. So yeah, maybe the drivers in the last 2 years have just got used to pushing the limits too far, and
the drivers have got worse.
Yeah, our modern F1 drivers rubbish.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So 2 for yes, 1 for no. Let's see. We can recap that on our Monday post-race podcast. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our sponsor for this episode, ExpressVPN. Why does everyone need a VPN? Well, internet service providers know every single website you visit. ISPs can sell this information to ad companies and tech giants who then use your data to target you. So why use ExpressVPN? ExpressVPN creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so people can't peep on your online activity. It works on phones, laptops, even routers, so everyone who shares your Wi-Fi can be protected. Secure your online activity by expressvpn.com/WTF1 today. That's expressvpn.com/WTF1, and you can get an extra 3 months free. Right, let's get back to the podcast. J Royal 15, why does the runoff at Paul Ricard destroy the tyre's surface? I mean, it's very hot there. I think it was like 45 degrees, isn't it, or something? I don't have a huge amount of understanding about the runoff. I don't know if either of you want to chime in on that one.
It's a special runoff.
It's a hot runoff.
So the blue runoff, I'm sure Katie knows even more than me, but the blue runoff is different to the red runoff. And if anyone saw obviously what happened in FP1, Carlos Sainz went off on the red runoff and it absolutely obliterated his tire. I've not seen a tire look like that since
it was down to the carcass, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Hamilton stayed out and lost the championship. Sorry, Hamilton fans, for reminding you of that horrible moment. But it was down, to the whole canvas. You could see like everything coming out of the tire. Never seen a tire that destroyed, and it's because the red lines, they're not just there to be like, oh, look, pretty. It's the French flag, blue and red. The red ones are they were saying is like pretty much like sandpaper.
Yeah. So
Tommy, what's the blue one? Glass?
Yeah, ice.
Yeah.
No, so basically, what Tommy was saying is right in that the stripes have the different color is a different surface. So essentially you have the blue ones, which are closest to the track, and then the red ones, which are the furthest away from the track and closest to the tire barrier. And the aim is to stop the cars from essentially going off and not being able to stop and going into a tire barrier. So when they get to the red sections, it essentially tries to just like shred the tires like a sandpaper to prevent the cars from hitting into a tire barrier, which is kind of like, well, it's a pretty clever technology. But I mean, even with runoffs at normal grade 1 circuits, they use like an anti-slip paint and stuff like that to basically try and absorb as much energy to prevent a car from hitting the barriers, or to help a car maybe regain control of their vehicle or something if they've gone off, basically. I'm not very good at giving examples. It sounds
in theory like it would be a really cool thing. Like I imagine, say we've never gone to Paul Ricard, and you said, and obviously everyone complains about the car park tracks like Abu Dhabi or whatever, and you said, oh, they're going to introduce this thing where there's runoff area that slows you down a bit, and then if you go really wide, it slows you down even more. Would probably be like, that sounds like the perfect solution. And then actually Paul Ricard is probably the track that gets the most roasted for its runoff area and how it kind of is a bit of an eyesore to look at and stuff.
Yeah, not a fan. Just put a gravel trap there. That's like, just, why do you have to put sandpaper down? Like, just, for me, it just doesn't sort of punish mistakes enough. Obviously, you've got the exit curbs, which punish too much, and then I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of how wide you can go without really any sort of repercussions. Next up, speaking of tyres, we're talking about Pirelli, and of course they came out with their report. which is still
pages long.
I still find it so weird that they investigate their own problem. I know that they are the experts, and they can give the sort of
but they're not going to be like
learnings. But
don't buy Pirellis; they're terrible.
Exactly. But at the same time, if there's a actual problem with their tire, they're never, in my opinion, they're never going to come out and go, "Yep, they blow up. Yeah, we messed up." Like they're always going to find a way in which around to either blame someone else or make it sound like it was just all these random factors all came into play at once. So yeah, I'm a bit of a not a massive fan of some. It's like, it's like someone going and committing a crime, and then they're the ones that go, well,
in court. I'm not guilty.
I didn't do it. Well, there you go. You're free to go.
We saw you murder someone. No, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't. Oh, well, you must know. You were there. Yeah, exactly. So, not a massive fan. But Peter Allen Robbo says, do you think we'll see any more tyre drama over this weekend? I don't think so. I mean, the temperatures, as I mentioned, are quite high. What tyre compounds are actually running? Because I didn't see the intro to the show, to be fair. Is it I'm assuming it's not the softest. Either of you know? No?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
We'll find out. I'll do some typing while someone's talking. But no, I don't. They've put the tyre pressures, they've changed them by 2 psi, haven't they? Which Red Bull have said doesn't really change anything in their opinion. But they said that, look, they're the experts. We'll just listen to them. Was it 2 up or down?
Up. I think they've put the pressure up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Tommy, what do you think?
I can't see there being much more tyre drama than last weekend. Hopefully not, because it's one of those things that's I just find just not that interesting at all.
C2,
it's not why
C3. Sorry, Tommy. C2, C3, C4. So right back, slap bang down the middle.
Yeah, it's just I hope not, because I just the whole drama again, and it's a little bit like the Massey thing. I don't think it's healthy for again on a, like, I know I sound a little bit like for safety, but I don't think it is healthy to have team versus tire manufacturer and team versus FIA and they need to sort it out between them, rather than just it seems like Max went on a massive rant about it to Sky, saying, well, we gave them all the data and they're still saying it's not their fault. So what is it? Like, what is it then?
I think Crofty beautifully, sorry, Katie, said something about there's a lot of consonants but not a lot of reasoning, or something like that around the report. So, which I thought was quite, I mean, an 18-page report to not say really anything was quite interesting.
It was very vague, because, like you say, Red Bull and Aston Martin have basically said, well, we've given you all our data, there was no fault with the car, and we were running our tyres in perfect alignment with your suggestions. So how is that an issue? But basically there's the starting parameters and the running parameters, and the starting parameters of the tyres are based off of the assessment of the running parameters, which is what the teams give to Pirelli to say, this is how we think the cars are going to perform. And then from that, Pirelli will take that information and come up with like the pressures of the tyres that they should be, and like the maximum heat of the tyre blankets and things like that. So essentially they said that Red Bull and Aston Martin, their tyre pressures were lower than predicted, and that's probably why the issue happened. But the whole thing is unnecessarily complicated and just really bad PR for Formula One, for Pirelli, for Red Bull, for Aston Martin. Like Tommy said, we've got an amazing championship battle on our hands here, like probably one of the best we've had in years. And yet on Thursday Media Day, all that was talked about was tyres. And like Tommy said, casual fans don't care. They don't give a damn. They just want to know like what's going on with like Hamilton's race and how Verstappen's feeling after losing those 25 championship points. They don't care about the tyres, but that's all that's being talked about.
Katie Fairman, the spokesperson for all casual fans.
But it's true. Like, it's just It's a shame that it's becoming such a big talking point. But then look at the history of Formula One and tyres. You know, it's never been a perfect working relationship. There's always some drama going on in the background. And this isn't the first issue with Pirelli we've had. So
we mentioned about the whole like PR, from the PR side. It does make you wonder, what are the actual gains of being a Formula One tyre supplier? Because you only find out when it goes wrong, don't you? And then everyone goes crazy. So, yeah.
I mean, it's quite a big thing to be a lot of people,
Yeah, I guess they can advertise.
Like, I'll have some Pirellis.
Yeah,
I'll be an F1 driver now.
Yeah.
I know, Tommy, you're not a big car fan, but Pirellis are a road tyre as well.
I've got Pirellis on my car as well, so obviously it's working.
See, there you go.
And they've not failed yet.
Oh, God, touch wood. Yeah, interesting. Okay, that is... to be fair, naturally, of course, as well, tyres will be spoken about because it affected the championship battles. So I kind of disagree a little bit that tyres were the big talking point coming into this, because Max could have easily extended his championship lead, but didn't. And it seems as though he may be ruining that a little bit, because Mercedes look pretty good. Speaking of that, our next topic is Valtteri Bottas looking very, very decent. Obviously sixth in the championship, may I highlight to everyone.
With two retirements.
Two retirements. I don't.
No.
I'm not on that kind of. Oh, he's
I
sixth.
am. He's
Are
sixth.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Yeah, okay, Monaco, not ideal.
Would have been Hamilton in Monaco quite easily.
What was his other DNF?
Imola. He was not running
Which
very
would,
well.
yeah, he'd have got like 2 points for that. But...
Imola. Did he lose many points there, Tommy?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. So he's lost about 20 points, which, when you look at the actual F1 driver standings, which I'm typing in.
As he types it in.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's giving me that. That's the wrong one. Here we go. Driver standings. Give him an extra 20 points. He's 1 point ahead of Lando, although Lando maybe gained a little bit.
Yeah.
Still behind Sergio Perez, probably. So, yeah, he's still having a bit of a shocker of a season, Tommy. I know you're a secret Bottas fanboy. I never knew.
No,
that.
I just
coming out now.
You can't just. Yeah,
he is having a shocker of a season. You can't. Say he's not.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh no, I'm not having that. It's fine. Anyway, yeah. So he is having a bit of a shocker, but French Grand Prix, at least for practice 1 and practice 2, Bottas is on it. But I mean, at the same time, he loves to top a practice session.
He's back to his FP1 topping best.
There was a stat. I love the really irrelevant stats that mean absolutely nothing for the weekend, but one that was mentioned in FP1 by Rachel Brooks about the fact that the person that's topped FP1 has not won a race this season. So
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, so basically means it doesn't give you any sort of representation of what's going to happen. But the big talking point is Bottas has got the chassis that Hamilton had, and I'm sure all the Hamilton haters will be jumping on that so quickly. That Hamilton has a better chassis than Bottas. But at the same time, Bottas had a huge shunt in Imola and still has to obviously run that chassis after it being repaired and stuff. So there are points that I think Paul Ricard was touching upon that, just because they're in the same car, not necessarily will it perform exactly the same. I mean, it's pretty impossible to make two identical cars in every way. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a good chance for Bottas to bounce back if this chassis does give him an extra couple of tenths. But at the same time, I'm sure not a lot of people will say that he's done it out of pure talent. It's just the fact that he's got a better chassis.
Yeah, but then I guess you could. The thing is with the chassis swap, right? Do you not think that's quite a bold move? I know that the fact that he said that it was always planned and it's something they do on the regular. Just a theory. So, like you say, that chassis does perform better, and for whatever reason, like say, they're not totally identical, and he's way more confident in the car, and Lewis doesn't like this new chassis.
Bit silly.
That seems like when you're going for a world championship, you need to get every single point on Max Verstappen, just to give like Bottas a bit of a confidence boost. It does seem a little bit. You kind of do have to be a little bit ruthless to your number one driver now. I personally feel like maybe I'm overthinking it, but it is a little bit of a risk.
It's a fair point. I guess, on one end, if they've absolutely agreed it prior to the season starting, doing that to Bottas will only, plummet his morale even more. And maybe they think, look, we'll stick Hamilton in there. He'll still do a good job in it. I know what you're saying about the championship and whatnot, but I think it also says as well that Bottas isn't in the bin, because if he is in the bin, I don't think they would do the chassis change. If there's been this big falling out and stuff, they're going to pile everything into Hamilton's car, especially with Bottas being 6th in the championship. He's not in that driver's hunt unless something really crazy happens. So
we still love to talk him like he is, where they're like, do you need to win this one this weekend? It's like, stop pretending he's in the championship.
Nah.
It's just
he's
not
win every single one, actually. Yeah.
I think with this chassis swap, you can probably look at it at every single angle. You could look at it that maybe Bottas needs this new chassis so he can improve, and that maybe by winning the race this weekend, for example, his confidence will grow and he'll get back into that, Bottas that we previously know, Bottas 2.0, Bottas Porridge, whatever you want to call him. Or you could look at it. Is that a
Porridge is
I don't think he was known as that. I don't think it's his superhero
name. I just made that nickname up.
He has Porridge. I don't think he was ever called Bottas Porridge.
I'm going to call him Bottas Porridge from that. If Bottas wins, I'm tweeting Bottas Porridge.
Bottas Shreddies.
A little Easter egg for anyone that remembers that.
Oh dear! Oh gosh, I've got
Bottas
myself...
coffee, whatever he has. Just
giving myself the giggles. But yeah, I think you can look at it a million different ways. But the bottom line is that they said it was already previously agreed, and although it's a bit of an odd thing to do, I'll just go with what Toto said, which is that it's been planned and they always swap different parts. But yeah, it certainly was interesting on team radio and FP2 when Hamilton came onto radio and was like, there's something wrong with my car, which I'm sure, like you say, is going to absolutely be fuel for all the people that love to go, oh, well, Hamilton's only won the races because he's got a good car.
See, I told you. You.
It would stir the pot even more, wouldn't it? If Lewis came over the radio and said there's something wrong with Valtteri's car, because they'd obviously be running a chassis.
Imagine Bottas wins and Hamilton finishes like 15th, and everyone's like,
God, I cannot wait for the podcast if that happens.
I guess the argument is maybe that Mercedes can't really know like the performance of the chassis until you just put it in Lewis's hands, and then maybe it's this one weekend where they go, oh God, it is actually pretty bad. Valtteri, here you go, mate, you can have it back for the rest of the season, sort of thing. So maybe it was just testing it out. They've already pre-agreed it. Give it a go for one race. If it doesn't work out, swap it back round and put Bottas firmly back in that number 2 car. The Rapful, how much do you think this weekend will affect Bottas's future? Not a lot, unless he wins by a lap, I think, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, he needs to be there in the fight. I loved your little face you just pulled there, Tommy. That was
that's being screen capped.
He needs to finish where Hamilton does. Wherever Hamilton and Mercedes are, and it looks like they're right at the front, Bottas needs to be at least on the podium and not in 15th. If he picks up his performances from now, Mercedes might think, okay, look, there's more than enough time for him to salvage a few pretty terrible races already this season. But if it continues, if the form continues to go a certain way into sort of the midway point of the season, I think, old Georgie boy might be ringing up. But, he wants a deal by the summer. So, I don't think there's a huge amount of time for Mercedes to make their minds up.
Yeah, I think these 3, maybe 4 races are literally going to make or break Bottas in terms of, and he doesn't need to win. I think if he, I wouldn't say I know you're obviously joking that he doesn't need to win by a lap, but I think if he's getting, no, he needs to win by a lap. Toto has told him, win by a lap and you stay. No, if he's on the podium and, we're getting Hambot Vers and Bottas is taking points from Max, I think that's going to do, that will start to put back into their head, look, what is the point risking George when he might go all guns blazing? He'll want to win races. He might crash into Hamilton. All these scenarios, whereas Bottas, if he finishes second in the next 4 races, they might be like, yeah, he just had a blip, confidence, shot a little bit. He can get back in it. And then George Russell stays at Williams for the rest of his life.
Valtteri is a nice bloke, but my goodness me, do I want him to have a few bad races so that George goes up against Lewis next year? Who doesn't want to see that? Well, I'm so bored of the Bottas-Hamilton partnership, just from an entertainment side of things. Just whack George in there. Give him a broken chassis if you have to. Just see.
Stop putting results over our own entertainment.
Exactly.
For goodness sake.
When will they learn? No, I think, firstly, if Bottas ends up winning by a lap, he's taken one of the 167.
This is a genuine
This is the thing
theory
now.
now.
I'm going to change my prediction.
He's definitely taken one of the 165 different layouts or something, because he's done a Joker lap of some kind. But yeah, I think this weekend won't affect Bottas's future unless he literally has a proper nightmare, wipes out half the grid in the first lap or whatever, and ends up
half the grid.
That would be quite a bold prediction.
Some F1 lobby.
That really is.
Yeah.
But I think let's see how he gets on after the triple header, because I think that will be the real tale of time. And supposedly there's meant to be, I think it's absolute rubbish, but an announcement on Russell's future at the British Grand Prix, which yes, I'm not thinking that's going to happen, but
this hype, this massive hype, and it would just be George Russell 10-year
Williams extension.
10-year Williams extension.
Oh
yeah.
God,
why would you? Yeah, it's going to be interesting even if Bottas doesn't perform. I guess if he doesn't perform, he's never going to perform. But even if they do want to announce George, how the dynamic of the championship is going to affect that decision, because they want Bottas to be in a good headspace and to be taking points off Max. So that could actually be quite an interesting story, how that pans out.
Wow, so much juiciness that could be happening over the rest of this season. Probably none of it will happen. But anyway, we move on to Alpine. They're looking pretty solid, it has to be said, especially in the hands of old Fernando. Hello. And his teammate Esteban Ocon, of course, having his new contract with Alpine, which is very good news. Do love Esteban. He's a very nice bloke and talented driver. And I feel like he's sort of just continuing to progress, bettered himself back into F1 after that terrible bin bag moment in Abu Dhabi that we witnessed live on the Internet's Best Reactions. But yeah, it's good.
I've completely forgot what you were mentioning then. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
I was like,
bin bag moment. I just envisioned a plastic bag coming onto the track or something when he was driving, and it got caught in his breakdown.
That was Fernando in Bahrain this year.
No, It was what was it? 2019. 2019. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
Internet's Best Reactions, Abu Dhabi. Oh yeah, was he out for 20? No.
Yeah, he wasn't racing 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 2018 Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all having a bit of a moment here, but it's either 2018 or 2019 Internet's Best Reactions Abu Dhabi. If you haven't seen it,
he was racing with Renault in 2020.
Yeah, so it'd been 2018.
So
it was the 2018 Abu Dhabi. Anyway, God, it's just an absolute mess. These pre-race podcasts.
It's that runoff. It scrambled our brains.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're wearing the blooming jumper as well. Okay,
and I'm the curb.
Dream team.
Back to Alpine.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, do as you're told, children. Yeah, they're looking very good, and it seems as though they may even be the fastest of the midfield, because I guess just sort of looping back to Bottas, and he needs a good performance. Fortunately for him, the midfield seemed to be nowhere compared to the front lot, whereas we've seen, the Ferraris and the McLarens getting involved in a few of the races. It seems as though France is kind of extending the gap for the Red Bulls and the Mercedes, and Alpine look like they may well slot in that sort of P5, P6 territory. You obviously got the likes of Gasly still hanging around, and Leclerc, although Ferrari not looking massively great. Would you say it's not the best? Well, considering our expectations have gone through the roof after Baku and Monaco, I don't think we'll be seeing a Leclerc pole at France, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, good to see Alpine. Surprisingly, maybe they were doing a bit of headline talking for Friday. That was a mention, because obviously it's French Grand Prix and all that. But they look pretty good.
Build up the hype. It's going to be an interesting weekend, and I can see, which we'll talk about later, about Tommy's predictions. So, hopefully they'll continue to do well for his sake. But yeah, Esteban signing a new contract. I'm absolutely thrilled for the guy, because he's one of the only drivers on the grid that has got very humble beginnings. I think his dad was an engineer, and he spoke about it on Drive to Survive and things like that his dad, worked all during the day and then worked nights to help fund his karting career. We all know how ludicrously expensive it is to get into karting and single seaters, let alone Formula One. So it's a very good piece of news for especially young drivers that maybe are in a similar position now and aiming for Formula One. But lots of chatter about if this was a good decision in terms of the length of the contract. So he signed until 2024 with Alpine, which is obviously good in the sense that he's secured himself a Formula One seat for that long. And we don't often see contracts that far in advance. So that's good. But he's got ties with Mercedes. Toto Wolff is his manager. He obviously, in his year off, did a lot of work with Mercedes. And there was a lot of chatter as to whether he could be a potential driver for Mercedes in the future. So obviously with this Alpine deal, that's kind of been ruled out until at least 2025. But yeah,
not necessarily. They can be bought out, can't they? And all that good stuff. So
there's a lot of really long contract extensions going on at the moment. I think Charles signed for absolutely ages. Max did. Lando's signed a multi-year deal. Yeah, it's really good news. I'm glad Ocon's staying in the sport. Just hope it doesn't mean that all these drivers are going to just stay at every team for 4 years and we don't get a bit of jumbled up, because that's always makes the season nice and exciting. But I guess it's teams locking in their kind of driver that they see their future with, that when the regulations change, it's like, right, this is our guy, fresh start, new regulations, this is who we want to go with. And I guess for McLaren, that's Lando, Red Bull, Max, Ferrari, Charles, and now Alpine with Ocon. But another story that's come out of that is kind of puts Gasly in maybe a slightly awkward position, because I think after Monza, it was only Monza not a huge amount of time ago, and Ocon really was not performing that great. Was getting a lot of stick, and I think people were saying that Gasly could be the one to kick Ocon out his seat and be the new star there, because it doesn't seem like he's ever going to return to Red Bull. So I think if I was Gasly, I'd be a little bit not worried, but like where his next step is when all these contracts are now filling up.
I think he's just Mr. AlphaTauri, isn't he, for the time being?
Yeah.
Which he'll be all right, especially, if he's nipping on the sort of top end of the midfield, maybe he's okay with that. Obviously, he wants to be a race winner and things like that, but his time will potentially come. But right now, as you say, there's not really many slots available. I mean, Red Bull, but he's been there, and that didn't go very well. So, we'll see. But it's interesting that the length of Esteban Ocon's contract surprised me a little bit, just purely because I don't think his results have really maybe warranted a 3-year extension. I felt like, he deserves to be in Formula One.
You look at the 3 other drivers that got it.
Yeah,
they've been unbelievable. Whereas Ocon, no doubt, has been impressive, but I wouldn't put him in that level of those 3 of how well he's been doing.
So interesting. But clearly they, he's working well with the team and all that good stuff. So they've decided to stick with him. So congrats, Esteban. And he's got a pretty good teammate in the sense of Fernando Alonso for the next year and a bit. So let's see how he stacks up come the end of Fernando's little jolly that he's having in Formula One at the moment. Right, let's talk about our predictions then as we wrap up this podcast. My 2 safety cars, and Perez half a second off Max in quali, which could you never know.
According to AWS, he was about 9/10 off or something.
Yeah, I know. And he looked all right in practice 1, but didn't really have the pace in FP2, down in 12th, just over a second off Max. So maybe I went a little bit too short on that one. But obviously I don't want Sergio to, I don't want him to do badly, because he had an amazing performance at Baku, and I really hope that he does continue that momentum, because I said before the season that I thought Perez would take it to Max, and he's kind of it wasn't that at all. But Baku was a great showing. I just hope he can carry that momentum, and it just wasn't just a one-off, a good track for him or whatever, which you wouldn't expect from Sergio, who was, very consistent in the racing points of this world.
Yeah. Tommy? My predictions are no DNFs. So hoping those sausage curbs get removed.
Hello, Michael.
Michael Sassy, can you help me out? And both Alpines in Q3, which is looking good. All right so far, but you never know. You never know with these things.
No, it's true. I have gone for Lando Norris top 5 finish in the race.
Great.
I don't know, which is a bit of a pain. And Alfa Romeo in the points again. So, I mean, they've sort of like been flirting around the top 10. So
9th and 11th in FP2. So potentially around the sort of nipping at the heels of maybe the McLarens and Tsunoda, your boy Tsunoda, really doing some fast lap times, Tommy.
He'll be fine. He's moved to Italy now, so he's
bed himself in.
Yeah, they were talking about his it almost like he's. I feel like this is the first time Red Bull. We've mentioned it a lot that Red Bull don't really care about nurturing drivers; they just want that super talent. So Tsunoda, they obviously see a lot in him that they've said, move to Italy. This is your diet. No playing Call of Duty. You need to be in the gym, not eating all the time. This is your diet, whatever. And they've really like put him on this strict kind of plan. And then obviously he had a really good.
Sorry, I love how that's the time that they're like, right, diet time now. You know,
yeah, 6 races in and not performing. Come on then. But I mean, let's see if Baku was a one-off or it has genuinely helped him and he's back up to speed.
Back up to speed.
Baku up to
good one. The 3 fan predictions were Andrew Tyrrell 8, Hamilton Grand Chelem. And Niket P7350978, AlphaTauri double DNF, and D Salathambi. Ferrari will be back on the podium somehow. There's a big emphasis on somehow now. I think going into this weekend. Maybe the Kerbs. That's it. Katie, final thoughts. Yes. If I get I have won the final thoughts challenge.
Do I still have to give one?
Tommy, final thoughts.
I'm going to
full house.
Yeah, no idea. Please be good.
Come on, one of you.
It's going to rain. So yeah, great race.
Well, apparently I was
100% confirmed rain.
Yeah, apparently it's in the morning, isn't it, or something? But
yeah.
still, if it's a wet track
by the time the race starts.
If it rains before the race, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, like Imola again. That'd be good.
Yeah,
although I'm
exactly.
sure Bottas will not hit. That's the case.
Katie's
I've got a final thought. So Mercedes have led every single lap bar 2 in the last 2 visits to Paul Ricard. That's just a fact.
And what were those 2 laps?
I'm going to do a Tommy and pretend to freeze.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for
Katie, final facts.
Yeah.
Final facts.
No, that's too easy. You can just read anything. Right, cool. Thank you so much to Tommy and to Katie. And to you for watching and listening to this WTF1 pre-race French Grand Prix podcast. Thank you so much to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this episode. And we'll see you. That was a weird thumbs up.
It's like an elevator.
Make sure to give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, wherever you're listening or watching, and hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to get involved for the Monday I saw you move post-race podcast, and we'll see you two. You're absolutely off the rails.
Buzzing
today.
about Paul Ricard.
Paul Ricard.
Yeah, of all the podcasts to start being all silly,
we've gone delirious.
They've literally hypnotized you.
It's the runoff. Yeah,
Paul Ricard's the best circuit in the world. Wait, what? No, yes, it's fine. There we go. Cool. Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
I've left my hand in a really difficult position.